I've also been contacted by probably the same person about this issue. I think it might be a good idea to look into what Commissioner Lawler suggested about maybe giving them sort of a month for the permitting process and then allowing them to put them on the bill. So I would like to hear, what the plant board response to that idea would be. But secondly, if there is not something that we cannot do, to work with the plant board, then I think that your idea is a good idea of, including something saying during the first month, keep your eye on the bill. If you're, depending on when you had service, you may be eligible for a credit or something like that. So, but certainly I'd like to see what the board says.
I'll talk to the appropriate folks at the plant board and see what we can work out. Happy to do it.
Does anyone else like to see that done too?
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other new business? Okay, let's move on. Yes.
I've got a piece of new business for the commission to consider the dates for their meetings in December.
Good point. Because we traditionally move our voting meeting. Instead of having a voting meeting on Christmas, we usually move it up a little bit.
We open the 5th. Now, the first Monday is the 5th. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir.
So the second Monday would be 7/5, next 12. I heard that Thornhill. And so that would be our first meeting, normally scheduled meeting. All right, then, so I'm open for any. Well, I guess we'd have the first meeting in opposition to that. All right, that'd be the next meeting after the next Mondays. All right, then for the our regular business meeting, so just throw it out here. What you got? You thought this thing through and want some recommendations? Just discuss it.
You're talking about the voting meeting, when to have the voting meeting?
I assume that now, unless we're going to have a work session out. I'm just for 2 meetings next month. That's where I need to.
And the voting meeting is scheduled for the 26th. The day
Right,
after.
so we have to get something before then.
Why don't we just push it over to the 19th? Can we do that on Monday the 19th?
That's perfectly fine with me.
And just do it at 12:30 or 12:29 or something like that.
For a regular voting meeting.
Yeah.
That's fine. And since it's, for what it's worth, that means even if we were to hold that meeting at 12:30, we would still have to call it as a special meeting in order to be able to vote.
Is this what we agree with everybody? Okay. Yep. All right, thank you. Let's do that.
So the voting meeting will be December 19th.
That's what I heard.
That's what I heard.
12:30, I assume.
All right, now we'll just go over now, we're down to discussion items.
Yes, Mayor, we're glad to have with us today members of the Franklin County Alcohol and Substance Abuse Program, commonly referred to as ASAP, and they do a lot of good work in our community. They have a coalition, and we'd like to, we have Deborah Fleming from the Health Department, and Tommy Haynes, and Deborah Wigington from the Franklin County School System, Director of Student Services. So if you would come forward so that we can get you on the record. Speak on that.
Aw. I thought they were going to come out here with me.
Oh, department heads may be dismissed if you do not have something additional on the program.
Yeah, a handout here, there's 2 pages. The first is an overview, and the second page is a listing of the officers and how the structure of the ASAP. We put this together today with my colleagues, as it said.
I just support that.
Thank you. Tommy is the official director of the Franklin County ASAP. He was hired in May, so that officially started in June. And Deborah, of course, is like myself, we are permanent members of the ASAP board. So you all, as you can see, it's the Kentucky Agency for Substance Abuse Policy that was created by the legislature in 2000 under the statutory authority of 15A.342. And it was to develop a strategic plan to reduce the amount of substance abuse of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs in Kentucky. And one of the key components of this Kentucky ASAP board was that it is policy, and policy on the local and state level to decrease the amount of ATM in the state. Let's see, there are currently 75 local boards, ASAP boards within Kentucky, and they take care of, cover 113 of 120 counties. Now, Franklin County's ASAP board was developed in 2003, and there are some permanent, we have bylaws, and we also have permanent membership. And you can look down through there. This is the Franklin County Health Department Director or Designee, the Franklin County School Systems, the Independent Schools, the Cabinet for Families and Children, Bluegrass Comprehensive Care, the Kentucky Family Resource Youth Services Coalition, Bluegrass Mental Health and Retardation, the County Judge Executive or Designee, and the City of Frankfort Mayor or Designee. The board also includes other members of the community who are interested in ATOD prevention, and that includes businesses, civic organizations, churches, judicial and law enforcement agencies. Let's see, in 2011, over $1.6 million in funding was allocated to the various ASAP coalition boards throughout the state. And we receive around $15,000 to $20,000 yearly to operate, and it varies. Sometimes we have a carryover from year to year, and we also look for other funding, our group does. The funding so far has been used over the years, it's been going on. The funding, there were 2 community-wide town hall meetings that were to help bring up the discussion about the drugs in Franklin County. There's a partnership with the Franklin County Public Schools to develop or promote the 100% tobacco-free schools. Let's see, and then we are working with Frankfort Independent Schools currently to help them provide signage for their program. We had a youth leadership program, and we funded some scholarships for that. We've also funded programs within the Franklin County Drug Court. And let's see, we have some mini grants that we fund out there, people can apply for. One was Panda and Parents, and that's a program for Head Start children and for the parents of Head Start children to improve self-esteem and decision-making at that age. We have high school focus groups, public service commercials that you may have seen about especially pertaining alcohol and drug use. A new program coming up is drug training for educational professionals, known as DTAP or DITAP. It's DITAP. They've also, ASAP, Franklin County ASAP has funded some tobacco cessation materials for the Franklin County Health Department. That was basically for the indigent population served through the free clinic. And if y'all have any questions, there's a KIP survey that is the Kentucky Incentives for Prevention. That's been going on for quite some time in the school systems. And Franklin County ASAP has been funding the KIP survey for a number of years. One outcome from that, most recently, they have detected a growing rise in the abuse of prescription drugs amongst our youngsters here in Franklin County. So we do aware of this, and we do take a look at analyze what we find, and try to develop policies.
Good. Ms. Haynes, do you have any comments you'd like to add?
Well, one thing I'd like to thank your staff. We work also with the police department and the sheriff department, and they provide excellent information. They had one thing that was a night out, and it's a national program. We actually invite the community in, and they get to see different programs such as ours. And we're more trying to present a non-threatening information cards, even on our smoking things, we might say, we care about your health. We say, please join us with smoking cessation class. You know, we can provide this for you at no cost. When you approach it that way, you tend to get more than if you just, you know, have something that has a negative connotation. We've also had opportunities to work with a lot of the health departments and the education department for sure. I mean, we really care a lot about the youth in this town. I just think Frankfort is a great place. And since we are the capital, you know, I want us to be in charge of a lot of these things. And I've just been on board about 5 months. And a lot has already taken place. And just so you know, we're in the process of becoming a 501c3. And the paperwork is already basically done. We've got a few attachments we have to take care of. But it's just that way, you know, we can do more, as you know, with more funding. So it's one of those, we're using the funds we have, and right now we spend very, you know, on the low side, that's why we have carryover. But you're only going to get about $15,000, you know, and I'm the only paid staff and I'm part-time. So it's one of those, we have to really watch the programs, and we see, even when they have that night out for the people that graduate overnight, and we support that, and I forget their name, but I know you all know it. Graduation, yes. Yeah, I've been here 17 years, and every time I always try to participate in those to try to help out. You know, being a former track coach, you kind of see people grow, and then all of a sudden they become adults. They've got kids, and it's just another wave coming through. We've also seen some disturbing things happen when I listen to through the pipeline, some stuff that's coming through here from the Florida pipeline. I would not have known this. I also know that they have different alcoholic beverages that's targeting certain people. I would have not have known that. You know, this is information when you have a collection of different community people working together, those kind of things, you know, rise to the top. We never want to get into a situation as happened in election where you have people shooting at each other, killing one another, and you find out the bottom line was drug related. So we want to be on the front end of that, you know, where we can see what's happening, work with anybody we can, and just support them. In turn, we hope to support our work.
Good. Yeah.
Any questions?
Commissioners, any comments? Commissioner Water?
Just as an observation, because we did see a disturbing amount of drug violence here over the last couple of years. And a lot of that violence involved folks who weren't actually from Frankfort. And it makes a lot of sense, I think, when you think about it. Our location in the Golden Triangle between Cincinnati, Lexington, and Louisville. I mean, what a great place to meet in the middle to conduct your business on neutral ground, you know. It's it's good that you all are working on coordinating with other agencies as well, because there's no way to tackle any of this unless we're working not just with Florida, but even with our neighbors to the immediate east and west of them. Thank you for everything you're doing.
We appreciate you all.
And we're always looking for new membership too, to attend, so.
I noticed that the mayor's name is on there as a board. I think I've been to 2 meetings. I'll make it some more concerted effort to be there more often when I have someone there.
I've only been there 4 months, so I only missed a couple.
Thank you all for the information. Thank you.
The next item of business on our agenda is the discussion about parallel parking on St. Clair Mall. And recently, Mr. John Gray requested some 15-minute parallel parking spaces on St. Clair Mall. And we have an internal traffic committee, and our traffic committee discussed this, and in our discussion, I realized that anything to do with St. Clair Mall is to be brought before the full commission rather than just the traffic committee. So I've asked Mr. Gray if he'd be here today, and we can discuss this.
The Streetscape Committee, of which I am a member, was a member, has been very concerned about St. Clair Mall, and I do think whatever discussion there is should include a response or participation by the streetscape committee, regardless of the fact that it's 12, 15 years old. To my knowledge, that committee hasn't been disbanded, has not been relieved of their responsibilities for planning in that area.
My name is John Gray, and St. Clair is no longer a mall. It's a through street. When it was decided to take the mall out, downtown Frankfort proposed that it be taken back to 2 lanes of traffic and parallel parking on either side. That would have given us 2 lanes of traffic and some 36 parallel parking spaces. It was decided instead to have a single lane of traffic going from Main Street to Broadway with no parking on either side, other than the 2 cutouts in front of the parking structure. Parking is essential to retail revitalization. We've had more businesses leave than we've been able to attract to the downtown. And one of the reasons that people always cite why their business hasn't been successful is a lack of parking. We're in the process right now of trying to recruit a business, which I think will be a valuable addition to the downtown. But one of the first questions they ask, and this is to recruit another business, retail business in St. Clair. One of the first questions they asked was, where do people park? And we can't say, well, you can park in the parking structure because that's not open, and who knows when and if it will open. I guess we began this discussion about a year ago. And our first proposal was that we have 2-hour parallel parking on the east side of St. Clair, but in talking to the fire chief, we realized that would pose a safety hazard, because in case of a fire, and we all know how devastating a fire can be to St. Clair, having gone through that, they wouldn't be able to get their big trucks in and extend the extenders because there's not enough room between the 2 curves. So we went back and looked at this, and what we're proposing now is, there are two ways I think that we could address parking on St. Clair. And as you can see on that diagram, the first is to have 11 15-minute spaces on the east side of St. Clair. And if people are only parking there for 15 minutes, it would become like we've done on Broadway, where we have a loading zone in front of completely Kentucky in those stores. So if there's a fire on Broadway and a fire truck needs to get in there and extend its extenders, there's room to do that because there aren't people parking there for 2 hours. I talked to Chief Passage about this, and I think that he thinks that that's a possibility to talk about. The preferred option, I think, would be to have, as I've shown on the second diagram, is to have 8 2-hour parking spaces with a loading zone in front of 331 to 329 St. Clair. And what that would do is it would allow people to actually park there for 2 hours. And if we had a loading zone in front of 331 and the 329, that's where the 2 bars are. You know, the major problem with delivery trucks are these big beer trucks that pull in every morning to service the bars and Serafinas. But that would give them a place to pull in as far as loading. When they weren't there, it would be like the space on Broadway. And we would still get 8 2-hour parking spaces in there. As city manager said, first we're going to take this to the parking committee. But, it was decided that this is something, since it is St. Clair, that you all have to address the city commissioners. So that's the proposal, that we increase parking on St. Clair either by adding 11 15-minute parking spaces or 8 2-hour spaces with a loading zone. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Mr. Wilder, I had a question and a comment. In regards to the second diagram, the one that includes a loading zone from 331 to 329, why is the space from 325 to 315 there cut out? Why isn't that a sufficient loading zone?
Well, it probably is, but as a practical matter, Beer truck operators don't like to have to truck their beer that far.
But it doesn't quite, I mean, we're not
No,
gonna stop delivering beer.
no, we would prefer that those two cutouts be the loading zone for the entire block.
Okay. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, have you consulted with Downtown Franklin Incorporated about this, and have they expressed an opinion or a thought on this process?
Well, no, because I was told that we needed to come to you, and I wasn't aware that Downtown Frankfort owned any property on St. Clair.
No,
Or had any
they represent
businesses.
a number of businesses down there, and I didn't know if you had contacted the business owners in there to see if it was just more than you, Mr. Gray, who wanted this done. That's what I was,
Yeah, well, I have contacted the business owners.
okay, and are you finding that most of the business owners are in support of this program, of doing this?
I believe that they all are.
Okay. Because, I mean, oh, well.
I'm glad we got so many folks that care about downtown who are eager to take initiatives like this, and myself, I'd be inclined to sign off on one of these. We do need to, I think Commissioner Turner raises a valid question, as long as we've got written here. I mean, I think we should hear what the PFI has a strong feeling one way or the other.
Our board
Would
received,
you mind coming to the seat? And just sort of identify yourself when you say that.
Britton Skinner, the new executive director of Downtown.
And then written.
Oh,
Okay.
that'll do. We did receive notice that this was going to be brought before the commission today and discussed it at our board meeting on Wednesday, this past Wednesday, and decided we didn't have enough information. There was a desire from our board to get more information about the proposed plan and to take that to the merchants and the business owners that are part of our organization. So that was what my board decided on Wednesday.
Okay. Does that mean that you didn't have this information?
I did not.
I guess the only, I think these are detailed enough, just from my perspective, these are detailed enough diagrams for me to feel comfortable understanding what the parameters are. I will make one note that I think a lot of people will probably back this up, but the 50-minute spaces we do have downtown, not very well enforced. That they're actually in some ways, they're in many ways harder to enforce than the 2-hour spaces. And they frequently, therefore, just are caught up in the mix of the 2-hour spaces anyway. That might be a little easier, and I see the police chief not in a set in agreement back there. That might be a little easier to enforce if they're all together on one street, but across the board, a parking study that we looked at, and a list of recommendations we looked at, I think it was last year. And a lot of those recommendations came from a lot of the folks that both of you have worked with. There was a request that we do away with, in an effort to find more parking downtown and increase parking downtown, that we actually identify and do away with as many 15-minute and shorter parking spaces as we could. So given that, I'd say the 2-hour spaces, even 8 2-hour spaces are a lot more valuable than 11 15-minute spaces. Having said that, I'd be all for producing 11 2-hour spaces and letting that cutout be the loading zone, because that's not actually going to affect any business. I mean, the bars are still going to order the beer is still going to get to the bars. It doesn't affect the city's bottom line at all.
That would be the ideal.
Yeah.
Good. Mr. Hacklar? Excuse me, Mr. Hayden, you speaking? Go ahead, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I was just asking if right there where we're talking about possible loading zone, are those still nosedive? You can nosedive in the park for 15 minutes?
Well, it says parallel parking.
Uh-huh.
I mean, people do nosedive in if they're not supposed to.
Okay, it's supposed to be parallel parking.
And there's just a sign, there's not paint on the ground or anything.
And is it 3 each side?
3 places for people to pull in.
That's how much space there is there?
Jeff would probably know how wide those are.
But if you nosedive, it could be 4.
I think if you nosedive, yeah, it could be 4, maybe even 5.
Which that could also possibly be just 15-minute parking if the loading zone is still open.
Well, those cutouts were designed as loading zones. They've never been used as loading zones. I suppose they were used by Judd's when it was in there as a loading zone. But the beer trucks are sort of the tail wagging the dog.
Commissioner. Mr. Mark, do you have any comment or anything you can add to this discussion? I would like to.
Well, this has been discussed several times, and when the St. Clair width was determined, it was determined to be 21 feet, which would allow for 8-foot drive or 8-foot parking lane and a 12-foot drive lane. So the width is there if we want to accommodate parking. And if you drive up and down the mall on any day, people are parking there. So from that respect, it seems reasonable.
Okay.
Design-wise, it'll work.
I have one more question. This is for Commissioner, just to make sure. Okay, just make sure.
Oh, sure. Could I thought I'd try to get to department heads if they have something so that maybe end our discussion. Please, Chief Mohawk, if you don't, comment.
Thank you. The two options proposed, I agree with Commissioner Wilder that the 15-minute zones are practically impossible to enforce. If you had a stretch of those on that street, our parking enforcement officer could just spend their entire shift there and not attend to the other ones. On the second option with the extra loading zone, just one thing to keep in mind, as we go forward, if we discuss changing the Main Street traffic patterns, you're going to need extra loading zones if you end up with a two-way street. So, I caution you, if you got an opportunity to put a loading zone in there, this may not be a bad time to do it. And of course, whatever use is going to be for the garage and that retail space under there, whoever goes in there may have some ideas for that also. But 2-hour parking is easier to